My name is Rose Evelyn Walker, and at 24, I never thought my college graduation would turn into the perfect revenge. Standing beside my sister Lily Grace in matching caps and gowns looked like a dream, but it hid years of pain. I still hear those cruel words, "She deserves it, you don't." The night my parents chose to invest only in her still haunts me. But I didn't back down. I worked twice as hard, and when the truth came out on that stage, their faces went pale. Want to know what shocked them? Drop where you're watching from and hit like if you've ever had to prove you were just as worthy. I grew up in what looked like the picture of American suburbia, a neat two-story house in Michigan, a white picket fence, and family portraits lined with stiff smiles and quiet resentment. To the world, we were a typical middle-class family. My dad, Robert, crunched numbers as an accountant, while my mom, Margaret, taught high school English. Money wasn't overflowing, but we had enough that I was never supposed to feel deprived. But the real poverty in our home wasn't financial. It was emotional. And I lived it every single day. My younger sister Lily, with her golden curls and straight A report cards, was the star of the show. 2 years behind me, but always 5 steps ahead in our parents' eyes. She was the dream they bragged about, while I was the quiet background noise they learned to tune out. Christmas mornings told the truth more clearly than any words ever could. Lily got dolls that danced and gadgets that sang, while I unwrapped socks and dollar store crafts. "Your sister needs encouragement with her talents," Mom would say, as if mine didn't matter. And when I dared to shine on my own art shows, awards, tiny triumphs they barely noticed. Lily's science fairs became family projects, full of glittering displays and homemade models. My art? Lucky if Mom stopped by during her lunch break. "Art won't get you anywhere, Rose," Dad would mutter, not even looking up. The only soul who ever really saw me was Grandma Eleanor. She'd stroke my hair and whisper, "You've got fire in you, sweetheart. One day they'll choke on their pride." Every summer at Grandma Eleanor's lake house felt like a breath of air I couldn't get at home. She would sit with me for hours on the porch while I sketched the quiet shimmer of the water and the sway of the trees. "You have a special way of seeing the world, Rose," she'd say, brushing my hair back gently. "Don't let anyone dim your light." In that little sanctuary of hers, I finally felt seen, not for what I lacked, but for who I truly was. Her cozy library became my escape. Between the scent of old pages and the hum of cicadas outside, I devoured books about self-made entrepreneurs, underdogs who beat the odds. Their stories lit a fire in me. I didn't just want to survive my childhood, I wanted to rise from it. I dreamed of building something so undeniable that even my parents would be forced to acknowledge me. By high school, I wasn't the quiet girl in the background anymore. Out of necessity, I'd grown sharp, focused, and driven. I joined every business club, aced math and economics, and discovered a talent that even shocked my teachers. When I won a regional business plan competition as a sophomore, Mr. Rivera, my economics teacher, was so proud he called my parents himself. Mom's response? A shrug. "That's nice," she said, already turning away. "Did you remember to help Lily with her history project? She presents tomorrow." So I worked harder. Junior year, I clocked 20 hours a week at a coffee shop and still pulled a 4.0 GPA. I knew deep down I'd need my own money, my own path. Meanwhile, Lily joined the debate team, and just like always, she dazzled. Every tournament became a family affair, every win a reason to celebrate with dinner reservations and proud smiles. By senior year, we were both applying to college, though Lily was 2 years younger. She'd skipped a grade. Same class, same timing, same dream. Westfield University, the crown jewel for business and political science. And then, in the most poetic twist of fate, Our acceptance letters arrived on the same day. I still remember how my hands trembled, heart pounding as I tore open that thick envelope. I got in! My voice cracked with joy as I blurted it out at dinner. Full acceptance into the business program at Westfield! My dad glanced up from his phone for a second. "That's nice, Rose," he mumbled, then went right back to scrolling. Moments later, Lily stormed through the front door, waving her own envelope like a golden ticket. "I got into Westfield's political science program!" she screamed. That's when the room came alive. Dad leapt to his feet, Mom threw her arms around her, and within minutes, the kitchen had transformed into a full-blown celebration. Champagne was popped. Sparkling cider poured. "We always knew you could do it," Mom beamed at Lily, glowing with pride. As if I hadn't said the exact same thing just minutes earlier. As if I hadn't existed. 2 weeks later, the final blow came. It was one of those rare family dinners where no one had their phones out. Dad cleared his throat, folding his hands like it was a boardroom meeting. "We need to talk about college," he said, but his eyes were locked on Lily. "We've been saving for your education since you were born. Westfield's tuition is high, but we've got it covered. You can focus fully on school." Lily lit up while I sat there, waiting, hoping. Surely they had a plan for me too. The silence stretched too long. "What about my tuition?" I finally asked, voice barely above a whisper. The air shifted, cold, stiff. My parents exchanged that look, the kind that says everything and nothing at once. Then Dad spoke, slowly, like I was some disappointment they had to let down gently. "Rose, we only have enough for one of you. And Lily has always shown more academic promise. We believe she's the better investment." My mother reached for my hand like that would soften the blow. "You've always been so independent, sweetheart. You can take out loans. Maybe even consider community college first?" Then came the words that seared into my memory, never to be forgotten. "She deserved it. You didn't." I stared at them, frozen, like the ground had vanished beneath me. All the little rejections, the overlooked birthdays, the one-sided praise, the forgotten victories, none of them had prepared me for this. For the final confirmation that, in their eyes, I had never been enough. That night, something inside me snapped. Whatever thin thread had tied me to their approval broke clean in half. That night, after the crushing dinner conversation, I locked myself in my room and finally let the tears fall hot, heavy, and uncontrollable. I had held it together for so long, trying to earn their approval, trying to be seen. But in the end, 17 years of straight A report cards, business competition trophies, and my acceptance into a top-tier university had all been dismissed like they meant nothing. To them, I was never enough. And maybe I never would be. The next morning, eyes swollen and heart aching, I stood in the kitchen with a courage I didn't know I had. "How could you save for Lily's college and not mine?" I asked, my voice trembling. Mom didn't even look up from her coffee. She just sighed. "Rose, it's not that simple. We had to make practical decisions with what we had." I pushed back. "But I've worked part-time for 2 years, maintained a perfect GPA. I've done everything right. How is that not enough?" Dad snapped his newspaper shut. "Your sister has always been focused on academics. You've been distracted with art, with jobs, with side interests. And her path is clear: political science. Yours, business ideas and risky dreams. That's not stability." I whispered. "You never even asked me what my plans were." Mom finally spoke again, brushing off my heartbreak with a tone that felt more like obligation than care. "Look, we'll help you fill out loan applications. Lots of students pay for school themselves." And just like that, the conversation ended, not because it was resolved, but because they had already decided I wasn't worth investing in. In their eyes, I was the gamble, the lesser bet. That weekend, numb and desperate for something real, I drove 2 hours to Grandma Eleanor's house, the only place where I ever felt unconditionally loved. I poured it all out, every word, every wound. She listened silently, her warm, wrinkled hands holding mine like an anchor. Then she looked me straight in the eyes, wiping away my tears. "My sweet girl," she said softly but firmly. "Sometimes the deepest betrayals become the spark that sets your true fire alight. Your parents are wrong, so terribly wrong about you. But you have something they can't see, unyielding determination. Grandma couldn't offer money. Her small pension barely kept the lights on, but what she gave me was something far more powerful: belief. Fierce, unwavering belief. "Promise me you'll go to Westfield anyway," she said, gripping my hand tighter. "Don't let their limits become yours." That night, I made a silent vow. I was going to Westfield with or without their help. I would study alongside Lily, pay my own way, and prove that I belonged there just as much as she did. The next morning, I hit the ground running. Scholarships, grants, work-study programs, student loans. If it existed, I applied for it. Every spare moment between classes and work went into chasing down a future no one thought I deserved. Mrs. Chen, my guidance counselor, stayed late with me nearly every day. On our 25th scholarship application, she looked at me and said, "Rose, I've rarely seen this kind of drive. You're not just applying, you're fighting." I got a handful of small awards, enough to scratch the surface. The rest? Federal loans, and private ones co-signed by the only person who ever believed in me, Grandma Eleanor. That covered tuition. Barely. Housing was another battlefield. While Lily was settling into a plush, on-campus dorm, fully funded by our parents, complete with matching decor, a new laptop, and hand-picked linens, I found a crumbling apartment 45 minutes from campus, shared with 3 strangers from a university housing forum. I packed my things into secondhand suitcases and old grocery boxes. There was no send-off party, just Mom awkwardly offering me some faded twin sheets from the back of her closet. 2 weeks before move-in, I landed 2 jobs. Weekday shifts at a busy coffee shop near campus, and weekends at a used bookstore. Lily got professional movers and a family escort. I followed in my decade-old Honda, its engine wheezing, no one bothering to ask if it could handle the drive. At the Westfield entrance, I watched from a distance as my parents hugged Lily, snapped photos, beamed with pride. As they turned to leave, Mom tossed me a half-hearted, "Good luck, Rose. I hope this all works out for you." Her doubt stung, but it also lit something fierce in me. This isn't going to just work out, I thought. I'm going to make it matter. That first night in my new place was a punch of reality, peeling walls, creaky pipes, roommates I barely knew. I lay on a thin mattress, the sounds of traffic and muffled arguments seeping through paper-thin walls. The fear crept in fast. Could I really juggle 30 hours of work a week and a full course load? Would I crack under the weight of trying so hard with no safety net? Just when it started to feel too heavy, my phone buzzed. A text from Grandma Eleanor. "Remember, my brave girl, diamonds are only made under pressure, and you're already shining." I stared at that message until my breath slowed. Then I sat up, wiped my tears, and pulled out my planner. I mapped out every hour of every day. Sleep would be short. Fun. During that first week on campus, the financial aid office became my second home. I must have walked in a dozen times, desperate for answers, guidance, anything that could help me keep going. That's when I met Ms. Winters, the assistant director. After hearing my story, she looked at me with quiet understanding. "You're carrying more than most students ever will," she said softly. "But I've seen fighters like you make it through. Just promise me, when it gets too heavy, come see me. Don't carry it alone." That promise would become my anchor in the storms ahead. The day before classes began, my phone rang unexpectedly. It was Mrs. Chen, my high school counselor, my biggest advocate. Her voice was warm, almost tearful. "I have some good news," she said. "The business department at school pulled together an extra $1,000 scholarship for you. The teachers chipped in themselves." She hesitated. "It's not much, but we all believe in you, Rose." I stared at my budget spreadsheet, then quietly added that precious $1,000 into the corner box. It wasn't just about the money. It was the first time I truly felt seen. That moment planted something deep inside me. My determination didn't just grow, it crystallized into something unshakable. Then freshman year came crashing in like a storm. While other students were exploring clubs and new friendships, I was up before dawn, grinding through 30 hours of work a week on top of a full course load in business. My day started at 5 a.m. with 2 hours of studying before my shift at the coffee shop. After lectures, I'd head straight to the bookstore, sometimes not walking through my apartment door until after midnight. Sleep became a luxury. Free time? A myth. I read textbooks during my bus rides. I ate meals while finishing assignments. I scrubbed coffee machines with earbuds in, replaying lecture recordings over and over. Every second of my day was mapped, every ounce of energy rationed. I wasn't living like a college freshman. I was surviving like a soldier. The difference between Lily's life and mine couldn't have been more painful. Her social media was filled with sorority parties, study abroad meetings, and cozy weekends at home. Meanwhile, I was calculating whether I could afford both textbooks and groceries. But something unexpected happened. I started to excel. While classmates struggled with basic accounting, I was applying it in real life. Professor Bennett even pulled me aside one day. "Your analysis showed real maturity," he said. For once, my struggles became a strength. Around that time, someone unexpected stepped in for my roommate, Emily Brooks. She noticed my brutal schedule and quietly started leaving homemade meals in the fridge labeled "for Rose." One night, she waited up with tea and a blunt truth. "You can't keep going like this." After I told her everything, her face hardened. "That's beyond unfair," she said. "From now on, I'm your college family." And she meant it. She edited my papers, made flashcards, guarded my study time. When she found out I was skipping meals, she cooked for both of us. "Family takes care of each other," she said softly, "and sometimes the family we choose matters more than the one we're born into." In a world that kept shutting me out, Emily opened a door, and that made all the difference. Midway through sophomore year, everything I had so carefully built started to unravel. The coffee shop cut everyone's hours due to a post-holiday slowdown, just like that. I lost nearly 40% of my income. My budget, which had always been tight but manageable, collapsed overnight. Rent was due, tuition loomed. I was staring down my first major financial crisis, and panic hit like a wave I couldn't outrun. Desperate, I reached out to the only person I thought might understand, Ms. Winters at Financial Aid. I booked an emergency appointment and laid everything bare. She didn't just listen, she acted. "You qualify for an emergency grant," she said gently. And Professor Bennett has recommended you for a paid research assistant position in the business department. It pays better than the coffee shop, and it's a great step toward your future." That opportunity became a turning point. Instead of steaming milk and mopping floors, I found myself working side by side with Professor Bennett on a study about small business resilience during economic downturns. The hours were flexible, the work was intellectually energizing, and for the first time, I felt like I wasn't just surviving, I was building something. One afternoon, while sorting survey data, Professor Bennett looked up and asked, "Have you ever considered entrepreneurship? Your insights on turning scarcity into innovation, they're not just sharp, they're personal, and that makes them powerful." That simple question sparked a fire. I went home that night and began sketching out an idea that had lived quietly in my head since high school. Using what I'd learned in marketing and digital media classes, I created a basic online platform offering virtual assistant services to small local businesses, many of the same types I'd been studying. Late into the night, I built a website from scratch, crafted service packages, and tailored solutions based on real needs I had uncovered through the research. While Lily was attending networking events funded by my parents, I was creating something of my own from nothing. Every setback they handed me, I turned into fuel. They told me I wasn't worth investing in? Fine, I'd invest in myself, and I'd make damn sure they'd one day regret ever doubting me. By junior year, my business had grown enough for me to quit the bookstore job. I kept my research role for the mentorship, not the money. Between that, my virtual assistant work, and loans, I finally reached a fragile financial stability, and with it, my confidence bloomed. In class, I began speaking up, sharing insights from real experience, not textbooks. Professors noticed. Classmates asked for my help. The once invisible girl was now a respected voice in the room. Lily and I stayed polite but distant. She lived the typical college life. Sorority events, weekend trips home, regular calls from our parents. I lived paycheck to paycheck. One Thanksgiving, when I couldn't afford to visit, Mom texted, "We miss you, but we understand you're busy." That trailing dot said it all. Still, I kept rising. Dean's List every semester, a regional business conference, and by the end of junior year, my side hustle became a real agency. I hired 2 classmates, started repaying loans, and turned theory into action. Then came the breakthrough. Professor Bennett nominated me for the university's top entrepreneurial scholarship, and I won! Full tuition for senior year. "You've earned this," she told me. "Your story embodies what this program is about." For the first time, the weight I'd carried since that night at the dinner table began to lift. What started in silence and struggle was now echoing through the halls. And though I didn't know it yet, my journey was setting the stage for a moment that would change everything. Graduation day. Senior year arrived with a momentum I never could have imagined when I first stepped onto Westfield's campus, broke and invisible. Now I was running a digital marketing agency serving 15 clients and employing 4 student workers. A feature in a local entrepreneurship magazine had put me on the map not just at school, but beyond. Academically, I had climbed to the top of the business program. That October, Professor Bennett handed me a brochure with a look of quiet pride. "The National Collegiate Business Innovation Competition," she said. "Top prize, $50,000 and national recognition. Your agency serving underserved rural businesses has a real shot." For weeks, I poured everything into perfecting my business plan and pitch under her guidance. I advanced through 3 tough rounds of judging. The final, scheduled for April, just 1 month before graduation. While my future was accelerating, Lily's was unraveling. Senior thesis season had arrived, and for the first time, my sister, who'd coasted on charm and support, was floundering. She didn't know how to dig deep, how to fight for herself when things got hard, and the cracks began to show. One Tuesday night in November, I heard a knock at my apartment door. I opened it to find Lily, eyes red, arms full of notes, and a laptop. "I'm failing," she blurted out. "Professor Goldstein said my entire methodology is wrong. If I don't fix it in 3 weeks, I might not graduate." I stared at her, my sister, the golden child, suddenly stripped of the safety net she'd always taken for granted. Part of me felt cold satisfaction. This is what it feels like, I thought, to be scared, unsupported, alone. But another part of me, maybe the part Grandma Eleanor had nurtured, knew this was a chance to be better than the pain they gave me. "Come in," I said, stepping aside. "Let's see what we're working with." That night became the first of many late sessions. As I guided Lily through proper research design, I realized just how far I'd come. The skills I had gained through survival time management, academic discipline, mentorship were things she'd never needed to learn. She had the privilege of support. I had the privilege of growth. One night, after hours of revising her draft, Lily looked up and asked, "How do you do it? The business, the grades, everything? I can barely stay on top of my classes, and I don't even have a job." So I told her about the 5 a.m. mornings, the nights I cried quietly over bills, the fear of failing not just a class but my entire future. Lily sat in stunned silence. "I had no idea," she whispered. And in that moment, for the first time in our lives, she believed me. The girl they always looked past was now the one holding everything together. And somehow, that felt like the sweetest revenge of all. "Mom and Dad always said you were doing fine," Lily said one night, almost defensively. "Fine is relative," I replied, staring at my laptop screen. "I've worked 60-hour weeks for 4 straight years while carrying a full course load. I've skipped meals, lost sleep, sacrificed every bit of a normal college life just to stay afloat." She blinked. "But why didn't you ever say anything?" That question hit me like a cold wind, so naive, so privileged. "Would it have changed anything?" I asked, voice low. "Would they have looked at me differently? Suddenly decided I was worth investing in too?" That moment cracked something open between us. For the first time, Lily saw the gap not just in treatment, but in the lives we were forced to live. And she didn't just acknowledge it, she acted on it. She started turning down lavish gifts from our parents, told them she wanted to handle things on her own, like Rose. She stopped asking for help with every small problem and started showing up to our weekly study sessions with a genuine eagerness to learn. By January, we weren't just sisters, we were finally allies. Her thesis was back on track, and with it came a newfound respect for the grit she never had to develop. Meanwhile, my own senior project had caught the attention of the university's top brass. In February, I was called into the office of Dean Rodriguez, head of the business school. "Your journey at Westfield has been extraordinary," she said, her voice warm but firm. "From financing your own education to building a real business, all while staying at the top of your class. You're exactly the kind of story we want to celebrate." Then came the moment I never expected. "Each year, we choose one graduating student to speak on behalf of the business school at commencement. We'd like it to be you." I froze, then smiled. I'd be honored. It wasn't just a speech, it was a declaration, a public reckoning. I had built everything they said I couldn't, and now I'd be standing in front of the entire university with my parents in the crowd and nothing left to prove. What I didn't know then was that Dean Rodriguez had more in store, something bigger, something that would stay secret until graduation day. As April rolled in, the business competition became my everything. I poured months of work, experience, and scars into that presentation. Every hard-earned lesson on resilience, resourcefulness, and turning limitations into leverage. When the judges announced my name as the winner, it wasn't just about the $50,000 grant or the headlines. It was a moment of validation. I had taken everything life threw at me and turned it into power. The university paper ran my story front and center. A photo of me holding an oversized check and a trophy, smiling like someone who'd clawed her way through every no and turned it into a resounding yes. I mailed a copy to Grandma Eleanor. She called me in tears. "I always knew you were extraordinary," she whispered. "Now the world finally sees it too." My parents never mentioned the article or the win. By then, their silence was as predictable as it was revealing. 2 weeks before graduation, they came to town not for me, but to help Lily. They rented a huge house for visiting family, planned a lavish celebration, and coordinated every detail of her big day. I got a last-minute invitation to the family dinner sent more out of obligation than intention. "We figured you'd be busy with work," Mom said casually, when I asked why I wasn't included in the planning. "But you're welcome to come, if you can make it." It hurt. Of course it did. But not the way it used to. Their approval no longer defined me. My worth had outgrown their recognition. The day before graduation, Grandma Eleanor arrived at my apartment carrying a small box wrapped in gold ribbon. Inside was a custom graduation stole, embroidered with the words that had carried me through the darkest nights. "Diamonds are made under pressure." "Wear this with pride," she said, tears in her eyes. "Every thread is yours." That evening during graduation rehearsal, Dean Rodriguez pulled me aside with a knowing smile. "Everything's ready for tomorrow," she said. "Just be prepared, your introduction will be a little longer than usual." I raised an eyebrow. She winked. Some surprises are worth waiting for. Later that night, our entire extended family gathered at a fancy downtown restaurant. Aunts, uncles, cousins all crowded around tables, wine flowing, laughter loud. My parents sat at the center, like royalty, proudly recounting Lily's campus awards, future internships, and law school plans. Then Uncle Jack, always the blunt one, asked, "What about Rose? Didn't she win some national business thing?" My father gave a dismissive wave. "Oh, you know Rose, she's busy." I caught Lily's eyes across the table. Her discomfort was clear. After dinner, Grandma Eleanor pulled my parents aside in the lobby. I couldn't hear the words, but my dad's stiff posture said enough. She was calling them out. For the first time, someone was standing up for me. Walking home that night, I felt calm. Tomorrow wasn't just about graduating, it was the proof I'd fought for. No matter what my parents had ignored, I had made it on my own. Graduation morning arrived bright and still. A text from Lily popped up. "So proud to walk with you today." It was simple, but it showed how far we'd come from distant siblings to something closer. I dressed carefully. New dress, comfortable shoes, and Grandma's embroidered stole, "Diamonds are made under pressure." I looked in the mirror and finally saw the woman I'd become. Strong, self-made, and unapologetically enough. Emily pulled up out front. "Your carriage awaits, boss lady," she eased, pride glowing in her eyes. Campus buzzed with celebration. I found Lily in the crowd and she hugged me tight. "Can you believe we made it? You conquered the world," she added quietly. "We both did," I replied. Just then, Dean Rodriguez approached and gently pulled me aside. "Just confirming," she said with a knowing smile. "Everything's ready." I didn't know what surprise she had planned, but I did know this. Today, they would finally see me. As the ceremony began, I spotted my parents near the front. Dad in his sharp navy suit, Mom in a loud floral dress, eyes locked on Lily with pride. They didn't even glance at me. But Grandma Eleanor did. Her eyes met mine, calm and proud. One nod said everything. When it came time to receive diplomas, I crossed the stage to polite applause until Grandma's signature whistle cut through the room. Lily flashed me a thumbs up. But the true moment came next. "Before we conclude," President Harlow announced, "please welcome Rose Evelyn Walker to deliver this year's student address." I stepped onto the stage and saw for the first time my parents finally looking at me, confused, unsure. I spoke about arriving at Westfield with nothing but determination, about working 30 hours a week while carrying a full-course load, building a 6-figure business, and graduating with highest honors. I never mentioned my parents, but every line about being underestimated and rising anyway, they knew. When I finished, the applause was thunderous. President Harlow returned to the mic. "It's my honor to recognize Ms. Walker as this year's valedictorian, graduating with a 4.0 GPA and building a business now valued at over 6 figures. Gasps and murmurs filled the room. He wasn't done. "She's also this year's winner of the National Collegiate Business Innovation Competition and has earned a position with Alexander Global Consulting. Her story will be featured in next month's Business Innovation magazine on the cover." Then the final blow, delivered with grace. "What many don't know is that Ms. Walker achieved all of this while fully self-financing her education. No family financial support, just resilience, drive, and vision." I glanced at my parents. Their faces said it all: shock, guilt, disbelief. For years they couldn't see my worth. Now the whole world could. I caught Lily's eyes across the table. Her discomfort was clear. After dinner, Grandma Eleanor pulled my parents aside in the lobby. I couldn't hear the words, but my dad's stiff posture said enough. She was calling them out. For the first time, someone was standing up for me. Walking home that night, I felt calm. Tomorrow wasn't just about graduating, it was the proof I'd fought for. No matter what my parents had ignored, I had made it on my own. Graduation morning arrived bright and still. A text from Lily popped up. "So proud to walk with you today." It was simple, but it showed how far we'd come from distant siblings to something closer. I dressed carefully. New dress, comfortable shoes, and Grandma's embroidered stole. Diamonds are made under pressure. I looked in the mirror and finally saw the woman I'd become. Strong, self-made, and unapologetically enough. Emily pulled up out front. "Your carriage awaits, boss lady," she eased, pride glowing in her eyes. Campus buzzed with celebration. I found Lily in the crowd and she hugged me tight. "Can you believe we made it? You conquered the world," she added quietly. "We both did," I replied. Just then, Dean Rodriguez approached and gently pulled me aside. "Just confirming," she said with a knowing smile. "Everything's ready." I didn't know what surprise she had planned, but I did know this. Today, they would finally see me. Grandma Eleanor stepped forward, gripping my hand with quiet strength. "I'm coming with you," she said firmly. "I want to meet the people who saw your worth when your own parents couldn't." The words landed hard. For a moment, I saw real regret flicker in my mother's eyes. "We're very proud of you, of course," she offered weakly. "Thank you," I replied, calm and composed. "But I've learned I don't need validation to feel successful. Today isn't about your approval. It's about celebrating a journey I made without it." As Grandma and I turned to leave, Lily stepped forward. "I'm coming too," she said, falling in beside us. And just like that, my parents were left behind, watching both daughters walk away, their narrative shattered by a truth they never saw coming. At the business school reception, the mood couldn't have been more different. The room sparkled with energy, faculty, graduates, and executives mingling beneath congratulatory banners. Lily looked around, wide-eyed. "This is nothing like the political science reception," she whispered. "It's home," I told her. These people truly saw me when our parents didn't. Emily Brooks rushed over and wrapped me in a hug. "I've heard so much about you both," she said warmly to Grandma and Lily, the grandmother who believed and the sister who finally woke up. Lily blushed. "Better late than never, right?" Dean Rodriguez arrived next, champagne flutes in hand. "To the woman of the hour," she smiled, "and this must be the grandmother who never gave up." Then a sleek woman in a tailored suit approached. "Ms. Rose?" she asked. "Jennifer Alexander, founder of Alexander Global Consulting. Your presentation at the competition was phenomenal. I'm thrilled you're joining us." "Thank you," I said, shaking her hand. "I'm honored to be a part of the team." As she moved on, Lily turned to me, stunned. "You didn't tell me you were working for Alexander Global." I smiled. "There's been a lot you didn't know." "That's one of the top consulting firms in the country," Lily said, eyes wide. I smiled modestly. It all came together quickly after the competition. She nodded. "I bet the salary's more than Dad makes." Her tone was thoughtful, not smug, just aware. The celebration carried on with speeches and awards. When Professor Bennett presented me with the Outstanding Entrepreneurship Award, her voice trembled as she recalled my journey from quiet freshman to department standout. The applause was long, genuine. Throughout the afternoon, I introduced Grandma Eleanor to everyone who had helped me: mentors, classmates turned colleagues, staff who had guided me through financial obstacles. Each person shared a memory, a moment where I had impressed them or made an impact. After the 10th heartfelt compliment, Lily leaned in, stunned. "I had no idea. They really admire you." Halfway through the reception, my phone buzzed, a message from Mom. "Dinner at the rental house at 6. Please come, we want to celebrate both our graduates." I showed it to Grandma and Lily. "What do you think?" I asked. Grandma snorted. "A bit late to play proud parents, don't you think?" Lily hesitated. "Maybe they're trying, in their own way." "We don't have to decide now," I said, slipping the phone away. "Let's enjoy this first." Later, Professor Bennett returned with a photographer. "The business magazine wants a photo for your feature. Are your parents here?" There was a pause. "My grandmother and sister are," I said evenly. "My parents are elsewhere." She nodded, understanding. "Then let's photograph the family that showed up." We posed beneath the business school emblem, Grandma radiant, Lily and I side by side in our gowns, my stole proudly on display. As we were leaving, Dean Rodriguez handed me a card. "The MBA program wants to talk full scholarship if you're interested. No pressure. Just, they see your value." Opportunity after opportunity. Each one a quiet, powerful refutation of everything my parents never believed I could become. As we headed toward Emily Brooks's car, I asked, "Should we go to the family dinner?" Grandma took my hand. "That's your call. You owe them nothing, but..." She paused. "There's power in letting them see exactly who you are now. Not for them, but for you." Lily smirked. "Also, I'd love to watch Uncle Jack ask why they never mentioned your company before today." Decision made. We drove to the rental house. As we walked in, conversations fell silent, then erupted in cheers and congratulations. But this time they weren't just clapping for Lily, they were clapping for me too. Mom appeared from the kitchen, her usual confidence replaced with visible nerves. "Rose, you came," she said, forcing a smile. We were just about to serve dinner. Dad chimed in with artificial enthusiasm. There's my successful daughters. Rose, why didn't you tell us about this big consulting job? I barely had time to process the hypocrisy when Uncle Jack cut in sharply. Maybe because you haven't asked her a single thing about her life in 4 years, Robert. The room went silent. Dad's face flushed red. We've always supported both our daughters, he said, defensive. Financially? Aunt Susan asked innocently. Because the university president seemed pretty clear Emma did it all on her own. Mom jumped in quickly. We had limited resources. We had to make difficult choices. Independent by necessity, not by choice. Grandma Eleanor snapped. Let's not rewrite history now that her success is inconvenient. Tension crackled through the air. Then, Lily, calm, clear, spoke. Mom, Dad, you favored me. You gave me everything and left Rose to fend for herself. You were wrong about her, and now the whole family knows it. Mom's eyes welled up. We never meant to. Intent doesn't erase impact, I said evenly. Your choices shaped my reality. Dad, clearly rattled, tried to shut it down. This isn't the time for blame. We're here to celebrate. Yes, Aunt Susan said dryly, to celebrate Emma's success, achieved entirely without your support. Remarkable, really. Dinner continued with uneasy chatter, but the shift was undeniable. For the first time, relatives directed their questions to me about my company, my job, my future. And with every answer, I saw my parents shrink just a little more, as the scale of what they'd ignored became harder to deny. By dessert, the dynamic had changed completely. The daughter they once dismissed had become the one everyone respected. The family's center of gravity had quietly moved, and it no longer revolved around them. As guests departed, they left behind warm congratulations, encouragement, and more than a few business cards. The extended family's praise felt validating, even if long overdue. After they left, Dad tried a reconciliatory gesture. Rose, he said, your mother and I were thinking, we'd like to help with the security deposit on your new apartment as a graduation gift. Once, that would have meant everything. Now, it felt like a gesture too small, too late. Thank you, I replied evenly, but it won't be necessary. My starting salary at Alexander Global is $90,000 plus bonuses. My housing is already secured. The number hit him hard. I saw the shift in his face. Shock, disbelief, and finally, reluctant recognition. Well, you've certainly proven yourself. Yes, I said quietly. I have. As we were getting ready to leave, Lily pulled me aside. I'm staying with Grandma Eleanor for a few days before moving. Want to join us? Like a mini family trip with the family that actually matters. Tears burned behind my eyes. I'd love that, I whispered. As we walked away, leaving our parents in the doorway of their rented house, I felt something heavy lift. Their approval, once so vital, no longer held power over me. The people who had truly seen me, supported me, Grandma, Lily, Emily, my mentors, that was my family now. In the weeks after graduation, life shifted quickly. I moved into a beautiful apartment near Alexander Global, paid for with competition winnings. My business continued under the leadership of my student team, now earning fair wages and working around their class schedules. The magazine article came out, our photo front and center. It told my story from struggling freshman to award-winning entrepreneur. I sent copies to everyone who'd believed in me from the start. Then, 2 weeks post-graduation, my parents invited me to lunch. Neutral location, polite tone. The conversation was awkward but real. We've been thinking, Mom began carefully, about the choices we made and the assumptions behind them. Dad added stiffly, we may have misjudged your potential. It was almost laughable given everything, but I knew, for them, that was a big step. Yes, I said simply. You did. We'd like to rebuild our relationship, Mom said, if you're open to it. The hurt child in me wanted to say no, to reject them the way they once rejected me. But the woman I'd become knew that healing requires strength, not vengeance. I'm open, I said at last, but only if it's something new, built on who I really am, not who you thought I should be. Dad nodded, subdued. And, I added, it starts with acknowledging the truth. It wasn't a misunderstanding. It was favoritism, and it hurt. They exchanged a glance. Then Mom spoke, softly. We did favor Lily. Their accountability, though imperfect, was more than I expected. It didn't erase the past, but it opened a door. Reconciliation would take time, but at least now, it felt possible. Over the summer, I started my position at Alexander Global, settling into a life I had fought hard to earn. Lily and I stayed in touch, meeting regularly with Grandma Eleanor. She had taken a job at a nonprofit focused on educational equity, clearly influenced by everything we'd lived through. I keep thinking about how different our paths were, she admitted during one dinner, and how many students face what you did without your drive to push through it. Her growing awareness meant more to me than any apology. She was finally becoming her own person, not the golden child our parents had shaped, but someone with empathy and depth. By fall, I had found my rhythm. Consulting work filled my days, and I continued overseeing my agency remotely. My first performance review earned praise and a bonus. For the first time, I felt what I had long chased: true security. That October, during a quiet weekend at Grandma Eleanor's lake house, she handed me a small wooden box as we watched the sun set from the porch. I've been saving this for the right time, she said. Inside was a delicate silver bracelet. My grandmother gave this to me when I finished school, she explained. She said it was a reminder that a woman's worth comes from within, not from how others measure her. I've held on to it for the granddaughter who would understand that. As she fastened it around my wrist, she added softly, "Your journey was harder than it should have been. But the woman it shaped, she's extraordinary. And maybe, just maybe, that strength wouldn't have come any other way." In that moment, I realized something I hadn't fully named before. The pain hadn't been fair, but the person I became because of it, she was mine, and she was powerful. On the 1-year anniversary of graduation, I used part of my savings and business profits to create the First Generation Achievement Scholarship at Westfield. Unlike traditional scholarships, this one focused on resilience supporting students who had overcome significant family or financial obstacles. The committee should consider not just where they are, but what they've overcome, I said when finalizing the fund. The first recipient, a young woman juggling 2 jobs, accounting studies, and caregiving for younger siblings, reminded me deeply of myself. The only difference? Now, she had the support I never did. My parents attended the ceremony. Over the past year, they had begun slowly rebuilding trust, one effort at a time. As I spoke about building ladders for others to climb, I saw something new in their faces. Not regret, but quiet pride, free of comparison. "You've created something meaningful," Dad said afterward. Mom added, "You turned pain into purpose. That's rare." Their words mattered, but only to a point. The most important lesson of my journey, true worth, is internal. My value hadn't changed because they finally saw it. Their view had simply caught up to what had always been true. Lily and I, meanwhile, were rebuilding our sisterhood, free from the shadow of favoritism. During a hike one Saturday, she asked, "Do you think you'll ever forgive them?" I paused, watching the horizon unfold below us. "Forgiveness isn't one choice," I said. "It's a process. Letting go of the hope that the past could be different. I may never forget what they said, but I'm trying not to let it define what comes next." Lily nodded. "For what it's worth, their biggest loss was never really knowing you." As I stood there, the truth settled over me like the breeze. I had gone from a girl told, "She deserved it, but you didn't," to a woman reshaping systems for others. The real victory wasn't in proving my parents wrong, though that felt satisfying. The deeper triumph was realizing their judgment had never defined me. I had always been capable, always worthy. Their failure to see that spoke to their limitations, not mine. And maybe the most powerful truth for anyone who's ever been overlooked is this: your value exists whether or not anyone else has the vision to see it. There are so many stories behind what you see. Some might even surprise you. If you're ever willing to hear mine, I'm always ready to share. Just know this: the person I loved never truly noticed me. Not until he met Lily.